A wild animal tangled in a fishing line does not think you are its rescuer. To the manta ray bleeding under its eye, the diver swimming toward it with a knife looks exactly like a predator closing in. And yet, off the coast of Western Australia, one of them held still and let it happen. Her name, given later, was Freckles. A 3-meter reef manta with 3 fish hooks buried beneath her left eye. In 2019, a snorkeler named Jake Wilton watched her break away from her group, glide directly toward him, and slow to a stop centimeters from his face. Then she rolled, tilting the wounded eye upward, and waited. He dove again and again, prying the hooks loose while she hung motionless in the water. When the last one came free, she lingered, then swam off. It is an irresistible story. It practically writes its own caption. She knew he was helping. And that is exactly where we have to be careful. Because the question underneath this video is not, are animals smart? It is something harder. When a human reaches toward a frightened wild animal, does the animal understand the intention behind the hands? The honest answer is that for most wild animals, we genuinely do not know. And the science that does exist is more surprising than the fairy tale. Start with the one animal we have actually tested thoroughly, the dog. Not wild, I know, but stay with me, because the dog is the control case that makes everything else legible. In 2002, Brian Hare and colleagues published a landmark study in the journal Science. They found that dogs outperform even chimpanzees at reading a human pointing gesture to find hidden food. Puppies with almost no human contact could already do it. Chimps, our closest relatives, mostly couldn't. The conclusion was startling. This isn't general intelligence. It is a specific sensitivity to human communicative intent, and it appears to have been built into dogs by tens of thousands of years of domestication. Then it gets sharper. In 2003, Adam McCloskey's team, publishing in Current Biology, gave dogs and human-raised wolves an impossible task: a container of food they couldn't open. The wolves kept fighting the box, alone. The dogs tried briefly, then stopped and turned to look back at the human's face. That glance is the whole story. The wolf treats the problem as a problem. The dog treats the human as part of the solution. Same wolf ancestry, radically different reflex. And dogs go further than just asking. In 2023, a team led by Christoph Volter ran what researchers call the unwilling versus unable test, published in Proceedings of the Royal Society B. A person offers a dog food through a gap, then withholds it, in 2 ways. Sometimes they clearly refuse, teasing. Sometimes they clearly try but fumble and drop it. To a creature that only sees outcomes, these are identical. No food either way. But the dogs reacted differently. They waited patiently for the clumsy human and grew impatient with the teasing one. They weren't reading the result. They were reading the intention. So here is the uncomfortable pivot. Everything I just described is a dog, an animal we sculpted over millennia specifically to read us. The manta ray, the whale, the fox at the edge of the woods, none of them had that. So what is actually happening when a wild animal seems to accept our help? Quick pause, because this next part is where it gets genuinely strange. If you're finding this worth your time, subscribe. It honestly keeps this channel alive. And tell me in the comments which animal you want investigated next. Predator, deep sea, backyard, whatever. I read them, and the best ones literally become the next video. Okay, back to the mantas. Here's what we can say about manta rays without inventing anything. They have the largest brain of any fish on Earth, with a brain-to-body ratio that puts them closer to some mammals than to other fish. And in 2016, researchers Chilla Ari and Dominic D'Agostino ran a mirror test on two captive mantas. The rays didn't ignore the mirror. They blew bubbles, circled it repeatedly, and performed unusual movements in front of their own reflection. Behavior, the authors noted, resembles what we see in animals probing whether the reflection is themselves. It is not proof of self-awareness. The authors were careful to say so, but it cracks the door open. So could Freckles have understood Jake's intent? Maybe she recognized him as an individual. Mantas do appear to. Maybe she had learned, over a life on a reef full of divers, that these soft, slow creatures don't attack. Maybe presenting the wound was simply the posture that brought the irritation closest to the thing that might scrape it off. None of that requires her to grasp the concept of rescue. And here is the thing the feel-good version skips. It doesn't have to. The behavior is remarkable either way. This is the trap we keep falling into, and it has a name. Anthropomorphism, projecting our inner world onto theirs. When a whale stays calm during a disentanglement, we say it understands we're helping. But trained rescue teams will tell you the opposite is the danger. Many whales panic, thrash, and can kill a rescuer with one strike of the tail. The calm ones aren't necessarily grateful. They may be exhausted, or in shock, or simply too weak to fight. We see gratitude because gratitude is the story we want. But notice what's left when you strip the projection away. You don't get less wonder, you get more. The dog that looks back at your face inherited that glance from a bond older than agriculture. The manta that held still may have made a calculation no human fully understands yet, in a brain shaped by an ocean we barely know. We don't need them to think like us for the moment to mean something. We just need to stop demanding that they do. Maybe the real question was never whether the animal understands us. Maybe it's whether we're humble enough to admit how little we understand them, and to help anyway, without needing to be thanked. Freckles never said thank you. She just trusted, or calculated, or endured, and then she swam back into a world that owes us nothing. That might be the most honest kind of help there is. If you want one carefully researched animal story like this every week, subscribe. That's the whole deal. One a week. And every study I mentioned is cited in the description, so you can read the real science yourself. I'd start with the wolves who wouldn't look back.